Did you know that this artwork for Sun Titan, illustrated by Todd Lockwood in Magic 2011, was meant to be part 1 of a 3-part story? If you look at the flavor text, it makes a very bold statement saying, "a blazing sun that never sets," implying that he couldn't be defeated. But it was juxtaposed by this copy of Animate Dead from the premium deck series Graveborn, released the year after. You can see the grim fate of Sun Titan being raised up as a zombie. 6 years later, we got to see how Sun Titan met his demise in this artwork for Terminate, released in Modern Masters 2017, that shows him being killed, with an ominous response to that earlier flavor text, simply stating that all suns must set. It was a tragic tale told over almost a decade of Magic the Gathering history. Merch. Like, comment, subscribe. Hello. Welcome back to Basics, episode number 24, a show where I take EDH commanders and try to find the perfect basic lands to fit them. I love seeing someone sit down with some beautiful basic lands, but something I love even more is seeing how well those lands match their commanders. One quick note before we begin. I like to give the artists credit for their artworks, but I may not pronounce their names perfectly. I'll try my best, but please forgive me and correct me if that ever happens. Starting things off, we've got the one and only Urza Lord High Artificer from Modern Horizons 1. There was a lot of potential ways to fit in with this card, and I've tried to touch on all of them in the pairings I've presented to you. The things that were easy to focus on were the artifact themes, with the golems in the background, the beautiful sunset, and the very light and airy cloud covering that helps to focus your eye on the subject of the scene. The interesting thing about this artwork is how low saturation it is, that despite the fact that there is color in the artwork, it seems bleached and washed out nonetheless. So with all of that in mind, I have 6 potential pairings for you to consider. Take a look at this island illustrated by Bob Ross from the Bob Ross Secret Lair that does a spectacular job of hitting all of the color notes in Urza down to the flat compositional elements. Or you can consider this very intimidating looking island illustrated by Piotr Dura from the 2020 promo packs that showcases his strong gravitas he displays in his lore and functionally in the game. A third option was one that I am very excited to actually be able to use. It's this island from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, illustrated by Aoji Maiko, that has flying cranes in it that could easily fit the motifs for artifice and magical machinery that Urza uses in the Magic the Gathering lore. And for a fourth pairing, you could emphasize the crisp, orderly nature of Urza by using this island from Shards of Alara, illustrated by Chippy, or you could use its counterpart that has higher contrast from M19 that places emphasis on those purple elements. Ultimately, all of these lands look great all lined up, with my favorite being the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty land, because it's so striking and unique while also potentially fitting Urza's themes. For the fifth pairing, however, I wanted to show off this awesome Hedron-based island panoramic illustrated by Vincent Prost that works from a compositional and flavor perspective and gives you a rare opportunity to show off all of these lands in a monocolored deck. Second on the list, we've got Kynaios and Tiro of Meletis from Commander 2016. The thing I liked most about this commander pairing is its hopefulness, with the two characters looking down in pride over the society that they helped to build. So when finding basics for them, that became a major focus. However, the thing you'll notice in this artwork is the lack of red or fiery elements in it, besides the dim red accents and Kynaios' skin tone. So I made sure to look for mountains that didn't emphasize the fire and destructive elements usually seen in mountain artworks. So take a look at the first of 3 pairings, starting with this bright and sunny island from Commander Legends, illustrated by Elena Danner. This flowery field in this mountain, illustrated by Jonas DeRoe from Dominaria. This forest from Jumpstart, also illustrated by Elena Danner. And this plains from Theros, showing the poplar trees native to their home plane. I loved this pairing for matching its color identities, ultimately allowing all of the imagery to blend into one seamless color palette that works very well together. For a second pairing, I realized that their artwork really favors the plane of Eldraine with regards to its positive and brightly colored sunset imagery. So I focused on that with this pairing. Check out this plains illustrated by Volkan Baga, showing off that sunset wash. This island illustrated by Nils Ham that has the greens and very complex imagery. This yellow infused mountain illustrated by Mark Poole, and this forest illustrated by Scott Murphy, all from Throne of Eldraine. Despite the cards being from 2 different Magic the Gathering sets, I feel like they've ended up meshing very well regardless. Or finally, I wanted to potentially show off the positive city atmosphere that they're standing in. And I was able to loosely do that using lands from different planes. Take a look at this mountain from Jumpstart, illustrated by Adam Paquette, this island from Magic Origins, illustrated by Richard Wright, this beautiful plains from the 2020 promo packs, designed by Daniel Lundgren, and this forest from Streets of New Capenna, illustrated by Christian Dimitrov. Usually, commanders that have 4 or more colors are more difficult to find basic lands for, which made it a lot of fun to find this many different pairings that could work for them. Third on the list, we've got Massacre Girl from War for the Spark. This artwork is extremely grim, with bright red color being painted on her face, in the blood pooling on the ground, and even flecked into the canvas if you look closely enough. Initially, this card would have been considered to be red and black, but the red has no hues of that fire color that would also make it match the Rakdos style of card. So I wanted to find swamps that had the red color in it, while also not having the orange hues to distract from it, which ended up being very difficult. But I think I found some, starting with these high-budget swamps from the Asian Pacific Land Program, illustrated by Ron Spears, that has those red spirits in the foreground, and this very scary-looking swamp from the Rakdos Guild Kit, illustrated by Dimitar Marinsky, that portrays the grim nature of Massacre Girl. Or this swamp from Hour of Devastation, that shows a river running red with blood to match the blood on her artwork. But by far, my favorite would be this swamp from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, illustrated by Shie Nanahara, that I think perfectly exemplifies the color strategy that we're looking for when looking for a red-based swamp basic land, even if the lore-based aspects don't match up exactly. Fourth up, we've got a fun one. It's Zabaz the Glimmerwasp from Modern Horizons 2. Zabaz is very unique when compared to his Boros-colored counterparts. He's an artifact-based, small, non-humanoid creature, which flies against most of the other commanders in his color identity. But the thing that excited me about him was that difference, because it allows us to showcase lands that we hadn't previously showcased on the channel. Take a look at this very unique and mechanically stylized plains from the Secret Lair drop, illustrated by Ben Schnuck, and coupling it with the mountain from the same set and artist. The thing I liked most about this pairing was that it feels like you are looking at the world through Zabaz's eyes, as he calculates his surroundings through vectors and basic shapes, which felt super cool to me. However, for more budget options, I felt like the lands from the original Mirrodin were a perfect fit, both functionally and image-wise. Take a look at this plains from Mirrodin, illustrated by John Avon, showing the gleaming razorgrass fields, and coupling it with this bright and highly saturated mountain from the same set and artist. This pairing just feels right at home with Zabaz, and it's very unlikely that you will see someone sit down with basic lands that match yours if you run with this underused land pairing. For a second iteration of the same idea, check out this plains from Mirrodin, illustrated by Martina Pilcherova, and coupling it with this mountain from Mirrodin as well, and by the same artist. I felt like these two matched up well because they were illustrated by the same artist, and that deep black color adds a level of intensity that a player playing this artifact aristocrat-based commander might want to showcase. And finally, we've got Sigarda Host of Herons, illustrated by Chris Ron. Sigarda's color styling is really unique. You'll see a large swath of blue across the scene that goes against her green and white color identity, but also contrasts very nicely with the bright sunlight cresting around her wings. The only way that green actually shows up in the frame at all is when it's reflected through her tassels. Seeing that, it became evident that the focus should be on her angelic appearance and try to feature that deep blue color as much as possible without straying too far from her Selesnya baseline. So take a look at this plains from 5th edition, illustrated by Pat Morrissey, and this forest from 5th edition, illustrated by David O'Connor. I really liked how each of these has the contrasting blue and yellow hues, despite being a forest and a plains, and ultimately it matches really well together with respect to her very unique color styling. For high budget options, I wanted to focus more thematically, focusing on her flying through the sky and the sunlight behind her. Take a look at this plains from the Magic Fest 2019 promos, illustrated by Sam Burley, that shows a beautiful focus on the sky, and this forest from the Magic Premier Shop promos, illustrated by Rob Alexander, that has the dark and beautiful silhouette effect from the sunlight behind the trees. I like this pairing mostly because of the beauty of the plains, which captures all of the best parts of Sigarda's artwork and potentially matching the other cards you'll be running alongside her. Another thematic choice would be to look at this plains from Jumpstart, illustrated by Pyotr Dura, showing one of her wings, and coupling it with this bright forest from Lorwyn, illustrated by Steve Prescott. These two have surprisingly strong dark tones, which matches Sigarda, even though the blue is not necessarily captured in them. However, each one of these previous pairings had at least one promotional or high-budget card in them, so for the most inexpensive version of this land pairing, take a look at this Plains illustrated by Adam Paquette from the dual decks Blessed vs. Cursed, and pairing it with this Forest from Magic Origins, illustrated by Jonas DeRoe. I liked this pairing, because of the darkness of the forest and how it brings out the gold colors in Sigarda when coupled with the Plains. But there you have it. 5 more commanders sorted for which basic lands I think match them best. But I want to see what you think. Tell me which commanders you'd like me to try and pick up basic lands for. Comment below and let me know. Have a great day.